Alrighty. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's review of Friday Night SmackDown from Chicago, Illinois. Tonight is November 24th, 2023. Hopefully, everyone is having a good night. And I thought tonight I would review Friday Night SmackDown from tonight, November 24th, 2023. So, this was the go home show going into Survivor Series. And the show opens up with Charlotte Flair's team. So, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, and Shotzi coming up to the ring to talk to the crowd, but then all of a sudden they get interrupted by Bayley. So then Becky Lynch lays down the challenge for Bayley to pick two members of Damage Control against two members of their team for a big main event tag team matchup later on tonight. More on that later. So then we move on to the very first matchup of the night, the Judgment Day versus the Street Profits for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. Now, if you guys remember correctly, the Street Profits won the opportunity last week on SmackDown by becoming the number one contenders. But there was also an added twist in there. More on that later on. So overall, I thought the matchup was pretty good. The Judgment Day get the win over the Street Profits, followed by a distraction from the current WWE Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley, who has Zoe Stark tomorrow night at Survivor Series. So the Judgment Day get the win, and Bobby Lashley and B-Fab, who are backstage. Bobby Lashley is absolutely incensed that the Street Profits did not bring home the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. So therefore, the Judgment Day win the match. I don't know who's going to dethrone the Judgment Day. I hope somebody soon dethrones them because they are high up right now. More on the Judgment Day in just a little bit during this review. So then we move on to the Grayson Waller effect. So the Grayson Waller effect, but before we get into the Grayson Waller effect, backstage, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair are meeting with Shotzi and Bianca Belair. And you can sense a little bit of tension going on between the two because their history, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair's history, goes back to the beginning of the women's evolution. That's how much history these two have. So they're trying to bury the hatchet, get by it, so they can be a unit for Survivor Series tomorrow night against Damage Control. So then we move on to the Grayson Waller effect with Kevin Owens. Now, if you guys remember on last week's show, Kevin Owens got suspended for putting his hands on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. I think it was either last week or a couple weeks ago. I can't remember when. But Kevin Owens did get suspended. So Kevin Owens comes out, and he's pretty much talking to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. But then all of a sudden, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory start talking about L.A. Knight. So Kevin Owens pretty much said, you know what happens when you keep talking about somebody? Then Austin Theory mentioned L.A. Knight again, and L.A. Knight comes out. L.A. Knight is still riding the wave of momentum, even though he lost to Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. He's still riding that wave of momentum, and that should carry him into his match with Logan Paul for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. So anyways, we get an impromptu tag team matchup. We get Kevin Owens and LA Knight versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Kevin Owens and LA Knight get the win over Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. This was a very entertaining tag team match. I thought Kevin Owens and LA Knight worked perfectly together as a tag team. They worked perfectly. I didn't really mind them as a tag team. So then we move on to Carlito's segment. So Carlito is basically addressing what Santos Escobar did to Rey Mysterio and Santos betraying the LWO. Santos as a heel right now is perfect. I don't mind it. I think it's really entertaining. So then pretty much Carlito says in Spanish, and then he translated to us English. He said Santos made a big mistake. Santos comes out, basically talks trash to Carlito. The two wind up brawling, but then Santos sneaks attack Carlito, heads to the back. We go to a commercial. We come back, and Carlito, who's holding his arm, is being tended to, and Santos attacks him again, but who makes the save? Dragon Lee. Now, Dragon Lee has been absolutely entertaining. He put on one heck of a match against Axiom last week on SmackDown. So, and I just found out, since Carlito is not able to compete at Survivor Series tomorrow night, Dragon Lee will take his spot. So it's going to be Dragon Lee versus Santos Escobar tomorrow night at Survivor Series. That should be a great match. But then we get to the Brawling Brutes versus Pretty Deadly. This was pretty much kind of like a throwaway match. I didn't really mind it, but at the same time, though, it wasn't really needed. But if you guys remember during the Tag Team #1 Contenders match, Butch accidentally bro-kicked Ridge Holland. So then this week, or tonight, Ridge Holland walks out on Butch, making it only a 2-on-1 affair. So pretty much, Butch tries his best to overcome the odds. He can't overcome them. Pretty Deadly win the match. So then we move on to the main event. Asuka and Bayley versus Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. This matchup I thought was good. It was a good main event. Pretty much damage control. The action was hot and heavy. The action was perfect. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair had the matchup well in hand. So did damage control. But there was one interesting factor in the main event. When Becky hit the manhandle slam, Charlotte speared, I believe, Bayley, and that broke up the pin. Becky had the match won for her team. So then Bayley rolls up Becky 1, 2, 3. Bayley and Asuka win the match. And then there's some arguing going on between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. I can just tell you guys this much. If Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair cannot coexist tomorrow night in WarGames against Damage Control, then they can forget the whole match. They can forget about it. Because Damage Control will win the match against Bianca's team. Now, shifting gears now, let's talk about Survivor Series WarGames. The big announcement was made at Survivor Series WarGames. It's going to be the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Seth frickin' Rollins, Jey Uso, and the returning Randy Orton. Randy Orton, who's been off WWE TV for 18 months thanks to the Bloodline, is making his comeback tomorrow night at Survivor Series. Now, my honest opinion on this is we need to enjoy Randy Orton while we can because of the multiple injuries he's had, the multiple surgeries. It's not going to be much longer until Orton hangs it up for good. And Orton's been with the company for 21 years. He's done it all in the business. So in my opinion, he's first ballot WWE Hall of Famer, period. First ballot WWE Hall of Famer. He's done it all. So who do I think is going to win the match? I'm going to say Cody's team had the upper hand on the go-home show for Raw, so I think Cody's team is going to win. Overall, guys, that's my review. I give SmackDown tonight the go-home show for Survivor Series WarGames. I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. I thought it was a solid show throughout. I cannot wait for Survivor Series WarGames. In fact, I'm probably going to be on tomorrow, just before Survivor Series WarGames, and give my predictions and some speculation as to what might happen. If you guys like these kinds of reviews, let me know. I'll keep doing them. Until next time, I hope everyone has a good night. Get ready for Survivor Series WarGames tomorrow. If you enjoyed, please comment, like, subscribe down below. Be sure you hit the bell as well so that way you don't miss any more videos like this in the near future. Thank you guys very much. I hope everyone's excited for Survivor Series WarGames. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for my Survivor Series WarGames and predictions. Or Survivor Series WarGames predictions. Hope everyone has a good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for my predictions.